Here we are with John Hinder from Walker and Dunlop. Walker and Dunlop is one of the largest GSEs in the country, lender originator. And in 2019, they were number one in their Fannie Mae origination, number three in their Freddie Mac. So John is my agency expert and is here to provide some updates on the interest rates. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about things that Walker and Dunlop is seeing and or doing in this new normal we have here. John?
Thanks, Michael. Thank you for having me. Look forward to kind of going through the landscape with you today and providing any insight that I can. As far as interest rates go today, they're flat to yesterday. So May, kind of your generic 10-year paper, full leverage, you're in the kind of 315 context. You could see that as low as 3%, depending on the affordability that the property, may have. The properties that have, call it greater than 50%, at less than 80% of the AMI are likely to price closer to that 3% range. As far as leverage points go, as you go down the scale, call it 65, you pick up, call it 20 to 25 basis points. Going even further down the scale to 55%, you're picking up an additional 20 to 25 basis points. So, naturally, as you get lower, it becomes a more competitive bid. Smaller loans are getting hit in the market, call it 10 to 15 basis points if you're under 10 million on top of those indications. Freddie Mac, their pricing model is a little different. It doesn't fluctuate really by the hour as Fannie Mae's does because they do not run live auctions. They aggregate paper and then do securitizations called K deals that, depending on the origination volume, probably average about $1 billion to $1.5 billion, and they go out probably about once a month. I believe they're getting ready to hit the market with one, which, depending on where that price is, could impact pricing. But Freddie's comparable 10-year full leveraged paper today is pricing about 15 wide of Fannie Mae, so call it in the 330 range, with affordability driving you down closer to 315. And that's pretty consistent across all product types that we've been seeing with live bids over the last month or so. So that's kind of the rate landscape, as it stands. And looking at that, you're still in a really good spot at sub 3.5% for fully leveraged paper.
Yep. That's
so
great.
Attractive time to get business done if you can.
Yeah, for sure. Are you seeing, there's been a lot in the news, and there was actually something on how many properties, I think it was how many properties Freddie Mac has paper on, something like 23,000 units across the country. And I was wondering, are you seeing a lot of these forbearance or these sort of distressed mortgage requests coming in?
So we've started to see some come in as of yesterday. On the Fannie Mae side, we've only granted 2 of those that have come in. A lot of it seems to be requests that are more testing the waters with anticipation that collections will continue to erode. And I can give you some more color on that. April was actually much better than we thought it was going to be. We had a call with the Mortgage Bankers Association earlier this week, and they polled, 4 of the really large operators, Waterton, Trammell, Equity Residential, and, in polling them, they were collecting anywhere from, call it 91 to 95% of their gross potential rent for occupied units, which is, it's very strong. I mean, that's off slightly from what they see normally, but that was to be expected, and I think the anticipation was that those numbers would actually be a lot worse. Now, we think that May is going to paint a different picture. April was really the first month leading in where you started to see job losses. Obviously, those are mounting this month, which is going to erode the income of these tenant bases going into the May rental payment period. So we expect collection losses to uptick in May, which will then drive a lot of these forbearance requests into an approved bucket, if you will, to where they're below break even on their debt service coverage. And the way that we're looking at that is we're basically taking that month's rent roll and their delinquency report and coming up with what we think is a a fair rental collection number, and then we're taking an annualized income figure, and we're annualizing that income figure, and then taking an annualized expense figure, having looked back at the trailing 12 number, to come up with an NOI. And if we see that it's justifiably below 1.0 on the debt cover ratio, then that typically will yield an approval for the forbearance request.
Okay. But
So
you're not
far,
seeing you're not seeing a ton of these properties that are already, below break even, at least.
No, and in talking to most operators, they're, it's market dependent, and the two big drivers is to the ones that are seeing the big hits are really tenant profile and market, just depending on what types of regulations the specific municipalities have put into place. So for instance, if you've got like Washington State's pushing back heavy on, they're not considering residential as an essential business. So if you've got a Class B or C workforce housing multifamily property where you've got a big base that works in the construction industry, you're going to see a big hit there because they're not working. Whereas if you look at Texas, they've considered residential housing construction as an essential business, which has helped prop up the collection figures in those major Texas markets. That said, the lower you go down the scale and the C-class stuff, I think that's where you're going to see the erosion. Just naturally, people there have less income to go on. They're really living paycheck to paycheck, and any reduction or interruption to that income is going to translate to lost rents.
Yeah. I've definitely seen the same thing. Yeah, disproportionate impact depending upon what state you're in, what even city in that state, and obviously the type of property and the income levels they serve. So, is there anything else that you want to share that Walker and Dunlop is doing proactively? I know it's kind of a reactive environment for all of us lenders. We're trying to just figure this out as we go along.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a dedicated forbearance team that handles our requests, and we're typically turning around initial feedback within 24 hours of receiving it. So we're trying to react very quickly, which obviously is helpful to our clients, and it gives them some level of comfort that we're not going to drag out the forbearance approval process. So it moves fast. We have a team that knows what they're doing. They know exactly what they're looking at, and to that point, they're able to move very quickly. As far as being proactive, it's kind of tough to be in this environment. You're just taking it one day at a time. Things change by the hour, and it's kind of the new normal. So it's definitely active.
No, that's great. It's been nice to see the CEO and Chairman Willie Walker do some of his webcasts and
sure. And you can feel free to share that. Those are all public, and as long as
great. I will. I'll definitely provide a link on this episode to.
We've had some very very respected and highly educated people in there from all different backgrounds within the financial industry. I believe next week we've got Barry Sternlick with Starlight, who's coming on, and we had the CEO of JP Morgan Asset and Wealth Management on this past week, which was a very good one, probably my favorite so far. So.
Oh, it's great. That's great.
Yeah, but I think overall multifamily is still performing very well, especially compared to retail. I saw a report this morning that came out, and they polled, all the landlords who have your big retail tenants, your AT&Ts, your Clothers, your Bank of Americas, and compared to, so March 10th, they collected 81% of their gross rents. April 10th, they collected 44% of their gross rents. So you're seeing
big
major
drop.
material. I mean, we knew that was going to happen, but those are startling numbers. So.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's true. I mean, the commercial strip centers have they've just been hammered.
Yep. And I haven't seen anything, comparable in hospitality, but I would imagine that they're, there, if not significantly worse. So.
Yeah. Well, we all hope we can get, I'm calling it now like a soft opening of the economy. It'd be nice to see that.
Yeah, I think
sometime in
California
May.
seems to be the one that's going to lead the way, and it'll be interesting to see what they do. And depending on what region you're in, I think it's going to be a collaboration amongst neighboring states. So, being here in the Mid-Atlantic, we're bordered by 5 states, and unless all 5 of those states get together, there's really no point, because you got to be on the same page. I think from what we're seeing, neighboring states are, right now anywhere from, call it the end of April, which I think is going to be too early, to the middle of May to the middle of June for Virginia is what I'm seeing. Now, whether they move that up or not, we'll see how it goes. I mean, it's definitely going to be a measured approach to reopening.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, well, I appreciate the update. So we'd love to have you back sometime, and do appreciate the daily rate updates, and anything else that's coming down the pipe for GSEs is very helpful.
Absolutely. I'll keep you tuned into everything, and thank you for having me.
Sure. Thank you.